Aloha. The word that keeps coming to mind for me is that how humbling this is, for me to be the person standing in front of you at this moment. It's very humbling to serve our faculty and staff as the interim director, but more humbling still to recognize that I'm the only faculty or staff person speaking today. So I feel that I'm representing us all. And in representing all of our faculty and staff, I want to take a moment to make sure that you understand that we very much appreciate the partnerships. The theme today has been partnerships. Cancer Center isn't doing all of this alone. We're working with all of the various partners represented by those of you who've joined in with us today. And as a member of the faculty and staff of the Cancer Center, thank you all. They also charged me with a absolutely ridiculous thing, which is to summarize 50 years of research at the Cancer Center in 5 to 10 minutes. That's absolutely impossible. So for our researchers and staff whose work I don't happen to mention, please forgive me ahead of time. But I'll try and hit some of the sort of the highlights and a few of the things that we've accomplished over the years. So in the 50 years since its establishment, the Cancer Center has made a number of contributions to cancer research and care in the islands, helping to steadily decrease the mortality and improve the health outcomes throughout the Pacific. One way of roughly measuring that is that in 1975, the mortality from cancer in the islands was about 170 deaths per 100,000. That number has now fallen to about 125. We still have a ways to go, but we've taken a good chunk out of the disease already as it occurs in the islands. So I'm going to highlight a few of the research programs and research findings that we've done over the 50 years that kind of helped with that. So Hawaii, as you've heard this morning many, many times, has one of the most diverse populations in the world, and we're especially suited because of that to doing research on why some ethnic populations are more susceptible to certain cancers than others, and how genetic susceptibility interacts with environmental factors in producing cancer risks. Because of this, many years ago, the University of Hawaii teamed up with the University of Southern California to establish the multi-ethnic cohort study. And this is the most ethnically diverse and long-standing longitudinal cohort study in the world, and it has gained national and international recognition among biomedical scientists. The study has followed 215,000 residents of Hawaii and Los Angeles since 1993. You heard one of those is Regent Moore, for the development of cancer and chronic diseases. So over that time, the multi-ethnic cohort has focused on the role of alcohol, coffee, diet quality, meat cooking methods, dietary supplements, body fat distribution, physical activity, reproductive factors, hormones, inflammation, diabetes, air pollution, gut microbiome, genetics, and other factors in determining a person's risk for cancer and other diseases. That's a pretty long list of different factors they've taken into account, and it's not complete. The UH Cancer Center is one of the very first cancer epidemiology programs to focus in depth on the role of diet in the causation of cancer, taking advantage of the great variety of ethnic foods here in the islands. Data from the multi-ethnic cohort has been used by countless researchers throughout the United States and the world, and its findings have been used nationally to formulate the general population guidelines for diet and nutrition. In fact, we have members of the Cancer Center who serve on the boards that determine those factors. Also in determining guidelines for cancer screening and cancer risk reduction. The findings from these world-renowned cancer studies are directly relevant to our state and our people. As you just heard, a small island state can have a huge impact. We see this all the time. Hawaii, for its size, has an amazing impact internationally. We were among the first to look at the role of obesity in cancer as well. So we recognized that early on. And importantly, our researchers also found that despite having a lower body mass index, Asian Americans have a predisposition to accumulating intra-abdominal fat, which is visceral fat, which puts them at a higher risk for certain types of cancers and metabolic diseases, including also diabetes. Indeed, visceral fat's an independent risk factor for breast cancer and for liver cancer, even after taking into account differences in overall obesity measured by BMI. So another area where we were amongst the first, the UH Cancer Center researchers were among the first to investigate the health effects of e-cigarettes. Electronic cigarette use. Working in our Hawaii high schools here, they uncovered a growing public health problem very early on among Hawaii's youth. Research with the youth and adults has delineated the relatively high rate of e-cigarette use in Hawaii and the larger Pacific region. And they also discovered that there's a relationship to adolescent e-cigarette use to initiation of cigarette smoking. So e-cigarette use leads to cigarette smoking. And they've shown how e-cigarette use is related to respiratory diseases, including asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease in adolescence and adulthood. Another important thing about how the Cancer Center works is, again, partnerships. We work with our community. We're all a part, back and forth from the partnership of the community to what we're doing, and then we help them learn from the research that we've done. So we work really closely with our diverse communities to develop culturally appropriate programs to help to prevent cancer or to detect it early. For example, the UH Cancer Center has conducted research on how to increase screening rates for colorectal cancers among Native Hawaiian men with the goal of reducing the high rate of cancer deaths in this population. The dissemination of colorectal cancer screening information was done in a culturally appropriate way for the Native Hawaiian way, for the men-only sessions with male facilitators. This screening education activity has resulted in a positive outcome for the participants, with most of them getting screened and a small percentage of positive early cancer findings. Our cancer biology researchers work hard to uncover the foundational mechanisms that drive the development and progression of different cancers. By understanding the processes that cause cancer to form, to grow, to move from one site to another, to resist current therapies and current treatments, they look for new approaches to treating and diagnosing the diseases, and new drugs to attack the newly discovered mechanisms. Our faculty have made a lot of contributions in this area as well. They've contributed to our understanding of how cancers form from a mix of gene and environmental interactions. Some of these interactions cause damage to key genes in normal cells, and when the cell has challenges fixing those, it can lead to cancer. For example, BAP1 is a gene that protects cells from carcinogens present in the environment. A new genetic disease, the BAP1 cancer syndrome, caused by inherited mutations of the BAP1 gene, was discovered here and named by our researchers. This is an incredibly important thing. Affected individuals develop mesothelioma, but they also develop forms of melanoma, renal cell carcinoma, and other malignancies. Our researchers led an international team of physicians that designed specific diagnostic and clinical guidelines for these patients and their affected relatives, and the National Cancer Institute has opened 2 separate clinical trials now for those affected by BAP1 cancer syndrome, where they're screened and for early detection and treated if they develop cancer at no cost to the patients. Another amazing outcome from work done here. Other researchers work on genes that also can cause, repair genes that are affected by carcinogens. For example, Fanconi anemia syndrome, those patients have genetic defects in their ability to repair their genes, and they're also at much greater risk for developing a number of cancers, including bladder cancer, and researchers here are trying to understand exactly the mechanisms for that. We also have done work on other types of genes that are involved in causing cancers. RAS-GRP1, it sounds like gibberish to you guys probably, but it's an important protein that can lead and drive the formation of certain types of skin cancers, and we learned a lot about that here. Another protein, HMGB1, plays a major role in how prolonged inflammation can lead to cancers like mesothelioma. We've also identified a protein called RSK that's an organizing engine. It's actually the thing that drives some cancer cells to move from one place to another. And we're finding ways to stop that gene from working, to stop cancer in its tracks. And this is being explored as a new therapeutic approach in treating brain tumors that are highly invasive and is also for advanced melanomas. This is an unusual one. We've also identified that one component of the increased death risk for Native Hawaiians relates to a greater incidence of sepsis. Now, sepsis is a life-threatening condition in which the body's immune system attacks the body itself and causes damage to its own tissues. And new discoveries about the mechanisms underlying sepsis are being had here at the Cancer Center, and our researchers are using that knowledge to now try and devise tools to impair sepsis as well. Because of our geographic isolation, Hawaii is home to a lot of species that are only found here. These are the endemic species in the islands. And they may have some rare natural compounds that could provide the key to new therapeutics to prevent and treat cancer. There's a long history of natural products having an amazing capability to treat cancers, and from islands like Rapa Nui, for example. So our natural products research program has examined plants, algae, and fungi from Hawaii and the Pacific Basin over the last several decades. This is something we're very well known for around the world. In the 1990s, one of our research teams identified a product called cryptophycin. And that particular compound has a lot of activity against cancer and has been explored in clinical trials. More recently, hercitinolide, which is a compound found in ironweed, that's consumed here as an herbal tea, has been shown in cellular assays to have significant activity against some cancers. So this shows how these natural products continue to be invaluable in leading to new potential therapeutics. The Cancer Center's dedication to preventing cancer and improving the lives of people diagnosed with the disease is evident as cancer incidence and mortality rates continue to drop. Although health outcomes are improving overall, cancer disparities, as you heard from Jill, this is an area of great interest here, remain an issue among many populations, especially amongst our minority populations. And our researchers work with these populations to learn about the cause of these disparities and to eliminate them. The Cancer Center's efforts toward minority-focused research and advancing cancer clinical trials have greatly contributed to the improving health outcomes for thousands of Hawaii's cancer patients. In 1994, the UH Cancer Center was first designated as a minority-based community clinical oncology program and is currently a National Cancer Institute Community Oncology Research Program for minority underserved communities. That's called the NCORP. And what that means is, by being a part of this program, we can bring in more support for community-based clinical trials here. So it's an incredibly important, again, another important way that we have effects on the health of our population. The NCORP has, and the prior NCI funding that we've had for these kinds of cooperative group research trials has brought practice-changing clinical trials to both children and adults in Hawaii. The participants in these trials represent our diverse race and ethnicities, and these studies have brought personalized oncology, precision medicine to Hawaii by the participation in the NC Match precision medicine trial. So this was a crucial trial that was just run over the last few years. It's a way of matching up specific treatments to specific gene signatures that the patients have. It's the kind of medicine we're hoping is the medicine of tomorrow for cancer patients. The Cancer Center relies on the members of the Hawaii Cancer Consortium, and you've just heard a lot about those guys, and the greater oncology community to provide its clinical research studies to the cancer patients. As you heard, the Cancer Consortium, Hawaii Cancer Consortium, is the Queens Health Systems, Hawaii Pacific Health, Kuakini Medical Center, the John A. Burns School of Medicine, and more recently, Adventist Health Castle and Hawaii Medical Service Association. In addition to our clinical trials network, our clinical trials network involves the majority of the medical and radiation oncology practices on Oahu too, and Triple Army Medical Center. I don't think sometimes everyone recognizes just how many partnerships we have in bringing our research and our clinical trials to the population. These partnerships have made cutting-edge cancer treatment more accessible to the people of Hawaii and have helped to diversify representation in clinical trials across the nation. They are the key to our initiative to build an early phase clinical trial center as well. This is the future of the Cancer Center. So we've been talking about the past of research going forward. The early phase clinical trial center, which President Glasner spoke about, is the future of the Cancer Center's research and our ability to get clinical trials, these early phase clinical trials, to our patients. This was a dream that Senator Green Harimoto had. He came and talked to Randy and myself in 2016, actually, so many years ago before we got this going. And he wanted to know how could he help patients like himself that have these really advanced cancers. And this was the way that he thought he could make a difference. And so we're really thankful to him and the legislature for bringing about the funding for the new early phase clinical trial center. So thank you all. So in conclusion, I want to thank our extraordinary staff and faculty, past and present, whose passion and dedication to reducing the burden of cancer in Hawaii are the very reason for the success of this center over the last 50 years. They are a reason for these seminal research discoveries, and they are educating and training the next generation of scientists and of cancer researchers and they're engaging with the community to improve health outcomes in Hawaii and the Pacific. As Ned Sharpless said, to end cancer as we know it. And we're thinking locally, globally, but acting locally. A small island can have a huge impact around the world. So on behalf of the Cancer Center faculty and staff, I want to thank you all for attending and helping us celebrate 50 years. And unfortunately, I'm sorry that we couldn't have all of our faculty and staff here in the room today because of COVID, but I do promise you we'll have one heck of a party once we get through COVID. So thank you all. Mahalo.